Alright, what is up everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, I guess you can call this a little roundup video. Looking around the league, things are going on right now. Chris Paul was just parted ways with the Clippers in the middle of last night for whatever reason. Apparently, Brian Windhorst reports that Giannis already requested a trade by the Bucks. We're going to talk about both those things here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all that stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So the main part we're going to talk about this video is Chris Paul, because all of a sudden he's no longer going to be a Clipper. Randomly around almost 3 a.m. last night Eastern Standard Time, it was Chris Paul put on his Instagram story. He put up a post saying, just found out I got sent home with a peace sign. And it was like, what? And then minutes after, it was reported by Chris Haynes and Shams saying that the Clippers are sending Chris Paul home. And basically, he's no longer going to be a part of the team. Then Lawrence Frank, the owner or GM of the Clippers, he released a statement talking about, like, yeah, we decided to part ways with Chris Paul. This isn't not putting the blame on him. I took ownership of all that, whatever. And things have been coming out as the morning time has come. I actually didn't even know about this live. Like, I went to sleep, I guess, right before this happened. And I woke up to this and I was like, what the heck is going on right now? And I had to, educate myself on what's going on. So apparently, who knows what's true, what's not true. But apparently he's been very vocal in the locker room talking about, maybe trying to hold guys accountable, talking about how things are going, because Clippers obviously have been having a really bad season so far. And I guess him and Ty Lue were butting heads, and those two weren't really on good communication level. And I guess they just got tired of Chris Paul holding them accountable. And so they decided, you know what, we don't need this in the locker room right now. We're already struggling. And they decided to part ways with him. He's not officially off the team yet. Parting ways, who knows what that means? We're probably going to see some news in the next couple of days. Either they're going to waive him, buy him out. Maybe they find a way to trade him. I don't really know. But he's no longer going to be a Clipper. And it's a very weird story, very interesting thing going on. And also a lot of sadness around this, too. We all know Chris Paul, this is last season. He's going on his farewell tour right now. And for the Clippers to cut him while he's on his last season, we all knew the reason he signed with the Clippers this offseason because he wanted to go back to LA for his last season. He wanted to go back home, be with his family, be in a familiar place in LA, and just rock out for the last year of his career. He signed there knowing he wasn't going to be a big part of the rotation, knowing he wasn't going to play a lot of nights, but he took that because he was like, I'm back in LA, I'm back with the Clippers, where I'm one of the best players in franchise history. We're just going to chill, and hopefully I can win. Now, fortunately, everything has gone bad for the Clippers. They're having a really, really bad season. Chris Paul looks 40 years old. He has not really playing too much, but obviously we know he's not to blame for the Clippers' lack of success. And even Lawrence Frank came out and said he's not to be blamed for the lack of success because he's just a super, super small piece on this team. But I guess apparently, things weren't going well in the locker room. You know, but honestly, I mean, we know Chris Paul. We know what type of person he is. Very vocal guy, a leader, natural, leader on the court. To the better or worse. Some people like it, some people don't like it. And from what I took away from this is, I think Chris Paul was holding his teammates accountable and holding his team accountable because they suck right now. And I guess maybe the front office and a lot of the people around didn't like that he was telling the truth, and decided to get rid of him. It's not a good look for the Clippers. It really isn't a good look for the Clippers. I mean, this is a guy who has spent a lot of his career there. He's one of your best players in franchise history. Back in the 2010s with the Lob City days, and was doing so many things, helped bring you guys back to relevancy along with Blake Griffin. And then he comes back, on this farewell retirement tour, and okay, sorry, I'm next to a window. People drive crazy on the street. Anyway, he's back on this like retirement tour. He wants to end his career with you. He picked you guys to end his career with because he loves LA and wants to be home. And you just treat him like this. This is how it goes out. You go out on cutting him in the middle of the night. Like it's a really bad look for the Clippers. It's just kind of disrespectful in a way towards an all-time great and a Hall of Famer and one of your guys that probably was gonna get his jersey retired and all that stuff. And to end on this sour of a note, it's just tough. I mean, Also, like reading different things and looking at the timeline, it's similar to what happened with Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's ended with the Clippers where he signed an extension. They were telling him, you're going to get a statue here, you're going to get your jersey retired, like this is going to be you. And then a couple months later, they just ship him off to Detroit. Like it's just a weird bad movement by the Clippers organization. Um, Thinking about from Chris Paul's side of things, I mean it's really tough. Now you think of like what's next for Chris Paul. We already know this is the last season he was gonna retire. Now what does he do? If he does get bought out or get cut, where does he go? Does he go to another team and try to trace a ring? Does he go out just say, it's over? Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Laker, to be completely honest. He could stay in LA, he goes on a good team, finally gets to go to the Lakers after what 10 years late when he should have gone. I guess maybe that's probably an option. Yeah, it's a weird, really weird. And you look at the Clipper side of things. I mean, they're 5-16. They just got absolutely beat up by the Miami Heat the other day on what Monday night. And things are bad over there. Things are really bad. This team just doesn't really have an identity. They really struggle to do so many different things. They're just not playing like a veteran-led team that they are. And for Chris Paul, I'm not saying Chris Paul's the scapegoat, but for them to do this to Chris Paul to add on to already what's going on with the bad season, it's a mess. It's really a big mess over there. And now you got to think about the Clippers. Like, what's next for them with this season? Like, seeing the way they've moved the last couple of years with Steve Ballmer and them wanting to be competitive and them wanting to be one of the top teams and wanting to be there, you know, they've made some good moves, but right now you look at it and things are not going great. And now I've been really thinking over the last couple of days, like, what possibly is the Clippers' next move here? Like, do they go and make some trades and make some moves to buy? Because I honestly think there is a realistic world where the Clippers are buyers in some sort of way, where they make a trade to seem like they're winning. Maybe, again, not going to get a superstar, but like making a trade for a guy that's going to come in and help them try to win, I guess, maybe. Like we've seen the DeMar DeRozan rumors over the past couple of days that DeMar DeRozan could be in the works for them, which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, he could give you buckets, but the defense, you guys are one of the worst defenses in the league. I don't think that helps out anymore. Do you go? Is there a world where they go on a full on rebuild and they say, you know what, we got to just get rid of everything, get rid of a Harden, find a way to get rid of Kawhi, Zubac, and we just restart? That maybe is a possibility, but honestly, I'm not really putting my chips on the table on that because again, the way the Clippers have been moving in the last couple of years, they are a team that buys. They're a team that's super aggressive. They want to win. And this being this bad, maybe it's only going to force them to try to double down and be like, hey, we got to do more to win. It's been really tough. And I mean, the big part of this is they don't have their own pick this year. The Thunder have their pick, unprotected too, unprotected pick. Not even if it's a top three, top four protected. No matter what happens to the Clippers this season, OKC is getting their pick this year. And there's a world like there's been reports over the last couple of days that NBA teams and executives are panicking because the Clippers might give OKC like one of the top prospects in this draft. That pick could end up being a top three, four pick, and like that could be an AJ DeBonsa, a Cam Boozer, a Darren Peterson, even like a Caleb Wilson. That could end up being a guy that could be a star in this league, and OKC just continues to grow this dynasty. Like, there's a real chance that OKC can win 70 games, win a championship, and have a top five pick this year. Like, that's ridiculous. And so, yeah, for the Clippers, again, this is just a really weird moment in their history, really weird time. Shout out to Chris Paul. Hopefully, he can find a way to get on another team and, try to win a championship to go out, have a proper farewell tour. I mean, they're in Atlanta tonight playing. And there might be some people that were going to Atlanta to see Chris Paul play last game, and now they can't anymore. Like it's just such a weird and wild and really disrespectful thing. Like it's so weird, and I just don't really understand it. But I guess shout out to Chris Paul. I guess I honestly do believe Chris Paul is in there keeping it real and being like, "Hey, we suck right now. We got to do better." And they just kind of were like, get out of here." Like that's what it feels like to me. Maybe again, more is probably gonna come out over the next couple of days about this, and who knows what's actually true, what's actually not true, anything like that. But just a weird situation, man. Wow, okay. So I was gonna talk about Giannis in this video because if you don't know, there's a thing that came out earlier today where Brian Windhorst, who's an ESPN reporter, was on a show on ESPN Cleveland, and he said like, "Hey guys, Giannis requested a trade already." And who knows how real that was or not real. I honestly was considering even talking. I was like, am I even gonna talk about it? I'll talk about it a little bit, but I'm not buying into it that much. Literally, as I'm recording this video, just got announced. Shams Charania just reported Giannis Antetokounmpo and his agent Alex Saratsis, sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, have started a conversation with the Milwaukee Bucks about the two-time NBA MVP's future and discussing whether his best fit is staying or elsewhere. A resolution expected in the coming weeks. So, just now, getting reported that Giannis is going to have a meeting with the Bucks, and wow, it might be happening. The trade request and Giannis going to another place might be happening very, very soon. Wow. Okay. So let's talk about it. Giannis, obviously we know this whole offseason has been a lot of talk about Giannis, and what's his next move. The Bucks not being great. They had the big offseason where they got rid of Damian Lillard, waived and stretched his contract, brought in Miles Turner. The surrounding pieces on this team just don't look great. And there's a lot of conversation, speculation, like Giannis going to request a trade soon. Who knows? I made a video about it before the season started, even talking about his side of this thing, because he has been very kind of like not really sure either. Like everything he says is kind of like, I just want to win, I want to win, I want to win. He's never been on one side of the fence of like, I want to stay in Milwaukee and win, or I want to leave. He's always been kind of in the playing the middle a little bit. They had a really good start to the year. The first like 2 3 weeks, it was like, okay, this Bucks team actually looks more fun than expected. Maybe not winning a championship, but hey, as long as these role players can be good and Giannis is doing his thing, like this could be a better than expected type of team. You know, then Giannis got hurt. They just run a 6 7 game losing streak. I think they lost like 7 of their last 8 games. They lost to the Wizards on Monday. Um, and it's funny because even in my power ranking video I made the other day, which go check that out, I talked about the Bucks and I ranked them higher maybe than like what it really should be because I believe this Bucks team is better than what they actually were, and then they lost to the Wizards later that night. So I was like, okay, well that is not true anymore. And then Brian Windhorst came out today earlier and talked on that show and said like, hey guys, Giannis like he requested a trade. Like Giannis knows what's going on, and now Shams just reports that Giannis is gonna meet with the Bucks, and a resolution is expected in the coming weeks. Is very interesting. So that that saying that a resolution is expected, that makes me think that a trade is probably possibly happening very soon, which would be very. I honestly did believe that if Giannis was going to request a trade and the trade was going to happen, it would be in the offseason because I feel like that just is more efficient and better to do. It's so hard to trade a guy of his caliber and find something out like in what a month, 2 months, 3 months. Like that's so hard to do. Having a full offseason where you can kind of sit back and be like, okay, this is what every situation looks like, and now we assess the situation and see what happens. Doing it at the deadline is just so kind of chaotic, and it's like who knows what teams are actually willing to do, and you're right in the middle of trying to compete, and then all of a sudden, like it's just so tough. But apparently, Giannis probably doesn't care. You know, this has been something that has been again speculated a lot. I've been a guy that's saying, I don't really want. There's something in my heart that doesn't want Giannis to leave because I just love Giannis being in Milwaukee. I feel like it just suits Giannis in Milwaukee. It's just so cool. We don't really get so many small market teams having a guy like this and him staying for the entirety of his career. It's very rare, so I would love for Giannis to stay. But on the other hand, it's like if this isn't going well and he's just gonna kind of waste these next couple years of his career being like an 8 seed in the play-in in the East and whatever, and just trying to have a chance. The Bucks trying to build, but not really building anything around him. Then hey, you know what? I mean, look how much he's done for Milwaukee. He's bought them a championship. He bought Milwaukee a championship. He's arguably the best player in their franchise history. He's done there. He's been there for so long. He's been there for what, 11, 12 years? Like he's been there forever. He's done all he could in Milwaukee. He's done all he could. He's done everything, and maybe it's time to go to a new situation. And what that new situation could be is very interesting. Thinking about teams right now, I'm looking at all the teams right now on the standings and stuff. Detroit. What if Detroit comes in? Detroit. We even talk about Detroit as a number one seed, maybe making a big move. Did Detroit? I don't even know if Detroit has the pieces to do that trade. Toronto could be a very interesting spot too. Now I'm thinking about it. You have R.J. Barrett and Mayo Quickly's contract. You have some decent young players like Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter. Not like those guys aren't going to be stars, but at least you have some. somewhat enticing young players that maybe you can get on and maybe they could do something. RJ Barrett can be a guy that goes to this team and has some big moments. I mean, he'll quickly also be a guy that go to a team and have some big moments or you have some excitement there. And now you build a team of Scotty Barnes, Giannis, Brandon Ingram. Do you keep Brandon Ingram and Scott? Actually, thinking about the Raptors package, you might want to keep IQ. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Do you, um, do you give up RJ and do you give up? I don't think you can't give up Scott. Scotty's playing so good right now. I don't know if you give up Scotty. Scotty's playing like an all-star, dang near all NBA caliber guy. So is Brandon Ingram. I don't know if I'm willing to give up one of those two guys. But then again, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, man. It's Giannis. Like Giannis is Giannis. Like that's a top three player in the world right there. So honestly, at that point, to get Giannis, everything might be on the table. That's an interesting decision. Miami, maybe. Like, I don't know. New York could be an option. Cat, and like McHale. You know, McHale's playing so good right now, but you got to give up to get Cat. Maybe McHale. They don't really have a lot of picks because they traded all of them for Mikal Bridges, but maybe that's those two guys are good enough for Milwaukee to say okay. Um, what other teams could be involved here? The Spurs are an option. You give up what, like Vassell, Harrison Barnes. You probably give up like, do you give up like a Carter Bryant maybe? Um, and for Giannis, Wemby, and De'Aaron as a big three. Jesus. I don't think Minnesota can do it, right? Imagine Ant and Giannis on the same team. That would be great. I'm just talking out loud, thinking, theorizing. Jewish Randle, like Dante, even Rudy, Giannis and Rudy. That'd be weird. I don't know. Golden State. Oh man, that money is so they probably have to give up like Jimmy in that trade, right? For Giannis, like no way you can keep Steph is the highest paid player in the league. Jimmy's one of the highest paid players in the league. Draymond, do you give up Draymond for Giannis? I don't know. Portland, you give up what? Like Portland, you give up what? Like Jeremy Grant. Maybe do you give up Shaden Sharp in that trade? You have Denny, Giannis, Tumani. Just have all wings, all big wings like Toronto. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. But man, that would be very. What team would really? Honestly, I think it might be the Raptors. If you think about Giannis trade, it probably is the Raptors. That's the first thing that's coming to my head. The Raptors have salary cap. They've been a team that has been every time I feel like a Giannis trade rumor has been in the talks. The Raptors have been a team that has been like lurking around in the shadows. They're playing again. They're second seed in the Eastern Conference right now in a wide open East. I would expect them to kind of go in and be like, hey, let's do it. We have the contracts to make it work. We have the guys to make it work. They don't really have like a superstar like a Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram have been really good, but they don't have a 1A that's like this is our guy in the postseason, all that stuff. I can see Toronto. I realistically can see Toronto being in there and getting Giannis if it does happen. But wow, something to keep an eye on for the next few days. Um, yeah, man. Wow, NBA just keeps on going, bro. Like this is so crazy, man. The drama in the NBA and all that, like top tier. Not many other leagues and anything can beat that, you know. But yeah, it's gonna be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn on notifications, doing all stuff like that. I really appreciate it a whole lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.